committed as well to ensure that that Iran never acquires a nuclear weapon.
My heart and soul is also in Israel. In the heated debate which we are going through as a society, it's a heated debate, but it's also a virtue and a tribute to the greatness of Israeli democracy. And let me reiterate clear, crystal clear, Israeli democracy is sound, strong, is resilient.
Let's get more on this from Dan Raviv. He is the author of a book on the history of US-Israel relations titled Friends Indeed, and also a former CBS News correspondent. Dan, thank you very much indeed for joining us. So how cordial is the relationship between Israel and the US, given Joe Biden's clear concerns at the moment about the state of democracy in Israel?
Aaron, from Israel's point of view, the United States is still the #1 ally and supporter and supplier of military equipment and diplomatic support. No question at all from the Israeli side. But in the United States, there are a lot of liberal Democrats, and that is, of course, Joe Biden's political party, who think that Israel is going the way of illiberal democracies. Sure, Israel is still a democracy, but the judicial reform would take so much power away from judges who independently have ruled about legislation and government moves that clearly Joe Biden doesn't like Netanyahu's idea of a judicial reform. Now, President Isaac Herzog is above politics. He's gone to Washington hoping to mend fences. His visit with President Biden clearly went well. And then tomorrow, Wednesday, when Herzog gets to speak to the assembled houses of Congress, this underlines that the U.S.-Israel relationship is strong. But certainly those demonstrators in the streets, Biden's decided to choose sides, and he's on their side, Aaron.
Yeah, and Herzog, saying how strong democracy is back home. Clearly, that's not what thousands and thousands of demonstrators think, and that may well go on for the next week or so. I mean, can he do anything, Herzog, to heal the relationship between Netanyahu and Biden? It's curious, isn't it, that this is his second visit to meet Biden when Benjamin Netanyahu hasn't yet made his first?
Exactly right. But on Monday, Biden and Netanyahu did speak by phone, and apparently they did say they'll get together in the United States this year. It might be at the annual UN events in September in New York. So I would say, again, the relationship is holding firm, but Biden knows that he can influence what's going on in Israel. Now, by the way, this does have to do with the West Bank, held by Israel since 1967. And Biden is concerned that Israel and its right-wing government ministers want to keep the West Bank forever, and the judicial reform in part is to make sure that they will never be overruled. So there's absolutely an Israeli-Palestinian side to this controversy as well.
Yeah, what's your understanding of the thoughts within the Biden administration about events, just a couple of weeks ago at the beginning of July, when we saw those pictures of the incursion into the Jenin refugee camp in the occupied West Bank by Israeli forces?
Well, on the whole, the United States government said that Israel has the right to defend itself and counterterrorism is a legitimate thing, but Israel should always be careful. And of course, the Biden administration knows there are many charges that the Israeli troops were not careful enough. Israel says they were, and that nearly all the people killed in Jenin were terrorists. Okay, that argument will go on, but in many ways you sort of turn the page. You get to the current controversies, and I thought it was interesting that President Biden decided to say, we're going to make sure Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon, which is one of Israel's chief interests. So again, I'd say politicians on both sides are trying to keep this alliance intact.
Great to get your thoughts. Good to talk to you, Dan. Appreciate you coming on the News Hour.